Hey Mike,
Hi,
how's it going?
good.
Good to be here.
It, it's actually good to have you on the channel.
Thank you so much for having me.
So so we're now doing the video. So I would like to introduce our guest for the show. It's Evan from the band Fever Dolls.
Good to be
Hey,
here.
hey,
Thank you so
hey.
much.
With the each episode, I always like to do like a short intro to whoever might not know who the guest is. So kind of like what was music like and kind of like what led you to like kind of like where you're at now.
Sure. Um yeah, so I we started this band out of college about 5 years ago. Um we're from Vermont, so we played around here for a little while. Um and slowly started playing around the Northeast and make getting a little bit of a following, and we've now released an EP and 4 singles, and we just finished recording a new album that we're hoping to release in a couple of months. Um, so yeah, we're kind of at that stage, um, where we're like coming out of the pandemic and looking forward to touring a bunch and putting out more music. Um, and kind of getting our sea legs back. Um, so that's sort of the status of the band currently.
So kind of like what has been some of the artists that has inspired you to do the type of music that you do for the band?
Sure. Um, well, um, I would say that this band that that the artists that inspire me most um, are um, I guess like my biggest influence is Bruce Springsteen, and we definitely come from a lot of that sort of like rock and roll of the 60s and 70s. um Similarly, we really like sort of like the pop music that would have been on the radio throughout the 20th century. We love Motown music, we love disco. So there's definitely that kind of more organic like classic rock influence going on. And then I also come from like personally, I grew up loving like heavy metal and sort of like the campiness of that. And like I love like 80s hair metal when I was a little kid. I loved that. And I love like um a lot of those sort of like hardcore bands that came out of Massachusetts, like Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall. And so like there's a little bit of that too. And I think that kind of that sort of music doesn't always get like the same kind of respect as a lot of that other sort of like more famous rock and roll type music. Um, and I think that's actually been a really good thing for us, that we have this kind of fun blend of um, sort of some stuff that everybody's familiar with, and then maybe some influences that are like a little bit more left field or over the top.
That's kind of like one of the things I do like about the band is
Yeah,
that there's a bit more of like the acoustic, softer stuff,
sure.
but there's more of like the rock upbeat style.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, when we sort of started the band, a lot of people were saying, or you can't really do that. Or people would give us advice and say you kind of have to choose to do one or the other thing. But now that we've gotten music out there and people have found the band, I find that that's what people like the most about the band, is that there is like exactly what you're saying, Mike. Like there's an acoustic sort of side to things, but then also there's like a heavier like rock thing that you can get down with too. That's also fun. And really like the difference sort of between our parents' generation when they would maybe go to a record shop and buy a record and listen to that whole thing. Like now people our age tend to listen to like a playlist that they make.
Yeah.
And so like our music experience can jump around, and it'll be like, you know, the Beatles to Taylor Swift or something like that. And so like I think that we're like our minds are a little bit more open to accept a band that's like does more than one thing.
Yeah. I actually would agree because there was always music in my house.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the memories that I can think of right now is
Yeah.
every Sunday we would do like make pancakes and listen to James Taylor.
Amazing. Yeah.
So every time when I hear his music, it always has like this nostalgic feeling.
Absolutely.
But definitely with having siblings, I always would be exposed to artists from like the 90s and 2000s.
Sure.
So like one day I'm listening to James Taylor,
Yeah.
next I'm listening to like Slipknot.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, same. And I love both those
Yeah.
artists like equally,
Yeah.
maybe.
And definitely one thing about like websites like Pandora
Hmm.
is that you can have a station that's just for one artist,
Right.
and they'll play artists that are similar
Yeah,
and be exposed to more.
exactly. Whereas maybe if it was 1975 and you definitely didn't have Pandora, but like all you had was the radio, and it was
Yeah.
like whatever they wanted to play for you, and it was probably like the same 40
Yeah.
songs over and over again. Yeah.
So one question that I always like to ask is,
Yeah.
besides doing music, what is kind of one of the kind of what do you do during your free time?
Sure. Um well, I still work a day job in addition to playing music, and I'm a paralegal at a law firm, which takes up a lot of time, but that's not so interesting.
Yeah.
But in addition to music, I'm really big into pottery and ceramics. I do a lot of crafts.
Yeah.
I do a lot of pottery, and I knit a lot, and I sew, um and I do like those sort of activities with my hands. I find are like very therapeutic, and they kind of like soothe my mind and slow me down. Um yeah, I'm also uh I also like write creatively. Um I was a playwriting major in college, so I still write a lot of plays, and I try and do a lot of stuff with theater in Los Angeles. And um yeah, and I guess that's kind of a good overview. Although I'm always trying to do different things. My latest thing is that I'm trying to become a much better photographer.
But with kind of with what I do,
Yeah,
what takes most of the time is partly I work a kind of a part-time job at a hospital.
I see.
So I work in the kitchen.
Gotcha.
So I'm definitely doing stuff with my hands.
Right.
So that definitely takes part of the week. But also I'm going to school for
Uh-huh.
music.
Nice.
So yesterday we just finished learning about it was engineering.
Oh, cool. Where are
So
you in music school?
it's actually here in LA.
Okay,
So I do have to, with where I live, it definitely is a bit of a drive,
sure.
but it definitely is worth it.
Yeah. I was born in LA, so I know
Yeah.
how that traffic is.
But I definitely another thing is uh
Yeah.
definitely my records,
Yeah.
but
Oh
also
yeah, I'm the same way. I am a huge vinyl head,
yeah,
and I am obsessed with sort of maintaining and growing my collection. I don't know if you've caught this bug too, but so I've had this vinyl collection that I've been growing for like 10 years now, and now I'm doing the same with cassette tapes, and that's a new thing. I've decided I'm going to try and get a really good collection of cassette tapes like from the 80s.
definitely with records, it definitely has happened within the past few years.
Okay,
But I definitely have I grew up with CDs,
sure.
so I definitely have a few CDs in my collection,
Yeah.
but I definitely do plan on branching out into more CDs on cassettes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting and this is maybe like a music nerd thing, but I like owning the same thing on across
Yeah.
platforms and like listen and trying to listen to the
Yeah.
differences.
It's one of the recent records I got. It's Rush's Snakes and Arrows album.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely listening to it on vinyl through
Yeah.
these speakers I have, it definitely has a different sound.
Uh-huh.
And
Totally.
one of the tracks that's on the album, I'm definitely hearing the bass more, like the bass guitar.
Right.
And he definitely has one of the most unique bass sounds with like this mid-range.
Definitely.
He was definitely inspired by a Chris Squire of Yes,
Yeah,
like that mid-range bass.
for sure. Yeah. That really cuts through. It's
Yeah,
almost like a baritone
yeah.
guitar or something. Yeah, I love Geddy Lee. I love those bass tones.
One of the things I do like about the band is the music videos that you guys do.
Yeah,
It's definitely more of like it has like a film grain, graininess to it.
for sure.
Kind of like what made you guys want to do that?
Yeah, well, I think it's two things. One is like I said, I was a playwriting major in college, so I sort of like come from theater a little bit and like just a little bit of screenwriting, and so like I love movies um and like sometimes I think like my love of movies and theater is sometimes equal to my love of music, so I'm always trying to find opportunities to kind of um think with that part of my brain, um because I think a lot of bands aren't thinking that way. They just kind of think in a musical lens. And the other thing is that um although I do like a lot of music videos, especially from the 80s, mostly I don't like, mostly if I love a song and I watch the music video, I'm disappointed by the music video. I rarely think that like music videos um for me are like the easiest sort of like way to fall in love with a song. Sometimes I think they can be goofy, or like just kind of the same thing. So we really wanted to just like make videos that were really different in that kind of way, and that were not just us kind of playing our instruments. Um, and so that's how those videos kind of came about. And at the time, our we were all living together with another roommate who didn't play in the band, but he is the director of most of those videos. So kind of like having that collaboration and all being in the same house is like um how we sort of were in a good place to be like, what if we did this really crazy idea, and everyone, instead of being like, no, that's like sounds too weird or out there, like everyone was just really supportive.
So it's one of my favorite bands. It's the band Switchfoot.
Yeah, sure.
They did a sort of a documentary back in 2013, 2014,
Yeah,
where it documented them going around the world,
nice.
places like South Africa to New Zealand and Australia.
Uh-huh.
And for some of the footage that they did, they took like the old cameras from like the 60s, like those
Oh, that's
handheld,
awesome.
like the handheld cameras, and got like
Mm,
this old time like 60s grain film, and they put it that in.
that is so cool. Yeah, I love that look. And it's I guess another thing I would mention about those videos, because like you're talking about like the graininess and the quality of those cameras, and like the Switchfoot documentary is like my mom moved out of the house that we grew up in, so we all kind of helped her pack up the house, and like that just like suddenly I was like going through these boxes of old VHS tapes. And there's something like when you watch old home movies on those kind of crappy outdated cameras, where it just feels so nostalgic, the quality, and it feels kind of like a time machine. And in that way it's like immediately like emotional in a way that like a very clear image like today isn't
Yeah,
always, just because we're so used to it.
yeah,
We're so used to
yeah.
everything looking so nice.
I just recently watched Star Wars Episode 4,
Yeah,
and it made me wonder like how they did those movies back in the like 70s,
right.
like with the limited technology,
Totally. Yeah.
with not having any computers. Well, like
Yeah.
there were computers, but they were like very minimal.
Right.
Like
And super slow and super
like
huge.
like with what computers could do at that time was the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
that like that whole scene that you saw that of what when they were planning the Death Star, like the whole like structure of the Death Star, like the structure,
Absolutely. It's like
like
the 3D model of the Death Star, and they're
like
talking through the plan.
yeah, but like that's what computers could do at the time.
Yeah, right.
But it was just a lot of like props and how they lit things,
Yeah, totally.
just do all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so cool. I'm probably due to rewatch those movies
Yeah,
again.
but definitely that makes me curious to like see how far technology has come,
Yeah.
even in just like a short amount of time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
One question that I did want to ask is, how do you
Mhm.
come up with the like the band name?
Um, we it was like one of those things where we didn't have a band name for a while, and then we had shows coming up, and so the venues were like, we need to have a name for posters. This was like when we were first starting. So we made like a big poster with like a lot of potential names and like words we thought were cool. Um and so we came up with Fever Dolls, just because the fever came from Saturday Night Fever, which is like a movie we really love and think is really fun. And um like we and I really love disco music, so like we knew we wanted like some of that in there. So that's where we got fever, and we liked that word. And then dolls was from the New York Dolls. which is like, again, is kind of like the band that we collectively love the most, maybe.
It's kind of
And yeah.
it's funny that you mentioned a Saturday Night Fever because one of the records I have in my collection is that
Uh-huh.
soundtrack.
Oh, no kidding, really.
And
It's such a good soundtrack.
it's actually from my dad's collection.
Oh, really? I don't know if you get this, but I also got a bunch of records from my mom that she had kind of back in the
Yeah.
day. And I think it's really fun to sort of listen to those records and hear the pops and stuff that have come from them being played so much. So, because it's sort of like I'm hearing my mom's previous listens of
Yeah.
that record from years earlier.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Kind of like speaking of that,
yeah.
some of the records I have is a Linda Ronstadt,
Oh, yeah, sure. I love Linda.
and that definitely was one of my grandpa's favorite artists,
Mm,
and definitely she was one of the like artists that helped start the Eagles.
yeah, right.
But my grandpa listened to listened to Linda Ronstadt a lot,
Yeah,
and that was on my mom's side, so it kind of like passed down from grandpa to mom to
sure.
me.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, that is so cool. And that's like also something that's kind of like unique to people our age and how we listen to music. It's like I
Yeah,
don't think that like our parents would have been listening to music that their grandparents
yeah,
listened to. You know, that would have seemed crazy, but like it's not so crazy for us because now we just like listen to everything.
yeah. So we recently I was listening to the track from Dusk Till Dawn,
Yeah,
and I looked at the lyrics,
yeah,
and one kind of one phrase that stuck out is
yeah,
raise a glass to Casey Jones and to days of past and fates unknown.
yeah,
It's just kind of like taking chances
yeah,
and
totally.
not knowing what to expect.
Hmm. Yeah, you hit it. Yeah, I like that line a lot, and it feels true. That's
Yeah.
exactly right, Mike. Just like taking risks, taking a leap.
And it was one of the times I was listening to that track, but definitely the title to that track definitely has like a dual meaning,
Yeah,
at least for me, because it could be listening to a song from night until morning,
right.
but also it could be talking about a track called From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Right. And almost in a meta way, the way
yeah,
that like sometimes a book ends and it's like,
yeah,
and then he finished the book and it's
yeah.
what you just read.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That's definitely one thing I like about music is it definitely could be taken multiple ways.
Yeah.
Like one person could write this and it could mean this to them, but a listener could listen to it and take a whole different meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched a YouTube video recently that was Paul Simon talking on the Dick Cavett show in the 70s, like one of these like late night talk shows. And he was explaining how he wrote Mrs. Robinson. And the talk show host was saying, like, well, what does this line mean? Because it's like kind of he was asking about the line. I don't know how well you know the song Mrs.
Yeah,
Robinson, but he was talking about the line that's like, where'd you go, Joe DiMaggio? A nation turns its lonely eyes to you. And Paul Simon was like, or Paul Simon's answer was, it's a pleasure and a joy to write from a stream of conscious kind of position. And a lot of times I'll write a line like that and I'll have no idea what it means, but it'll feel so right that I'll just say, you know what, it's got to mean something. And then like a week or two later, like I learn what it means. And other people have different meanings. And that way, these lines that kind of come out of thin air that aren't immediately clear can almost like become the lines that people think about and analyze the most and end up being like the most meaningful to people. I think that's really cool.
I listened to Disturbed. It was a Disturbed, like their version of a Sound of Silence.
Oh yeah, that's such a great
Yeah,
song. And their version is so good.
and I listened to that song, and it definitely made me actually listen to the lyrics.
Yeah.
And one lyric that jumped out is people speaking without talking, like that
Right.
whole line.
Yeah,
It made me realize how like real that is now, because
totally.
with stuff like texting and Facebook Messenger, on how we're still talking but without actually saying stuff,
Saying anything. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just how like they were somehow able to foreshadow stuff like that.
Right, totally. In a song that was written like 40, 50 years
Yeah,
earlier. And it's like now it's almost like more relevant than
yeah,
ever. Yeah, that is so cool. And it's funny. Yeah, you're a Rush fan too. I've always been curious by that line that's in Sound of Silence that's
yeah,
like, and the words of the prophet were written on subway walls. And then Rush says the same
yeah.
thing in Spirit of the Radio.
It's just amazing how music is able to speak no matter like what the genre.
Yeah, totally.
That I do have a on this whole wall right here. I do have a
Yeah.
section just for Rush,
Oh, nice.
just because on how kind of like important their music is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, I love that band. Always will.
So kind of like when you write songs, kind of like what
Yeah.
from start to finish, kind of are you playing on a like an acoustic guitar to
Mhm.
kind of how does it start?
So I used to write songs by like picking up the acoustic guitar and sort of like playing other people's songs till I did something different and then like following that down a rabbit hole or just like jamming and then coming up with something. And now I really try and write songs without any instrument. Like I try and write them when I'm driving in the car or like I'm riding on a subway or something. And that's just because I find when I play my instrument, I like can sometimes fall into the same patterns. And it's like I'll always go to that chord after that chord. And when I'm away from my instrument and I'm just kind of like singing melodies in my head, um, it's just like a lot more creative, I find. And like, I end up doing things that I would never do if I was playing them on the instrument, or just as often, I do things that I do all the time on the instrument, but because I do them all the time, if I was playing and writing the song on a guitar, I would say, oh, well, I can't do that because that's like so simple and everybody does that. But then I'll like write the song when I'm driving in the car and then I'll try and figure out like what the chords are and I'll say like, oh, I can't believe that cool idea is like so simple to play on the guitar. So that's how I've started doing it, and I think it works a lot better for
Yeah,
me.
definitely one thing about being like a kind of like a musician
Yeah,
is sometimes when I take the bus to wherever it is I'm going,
yeah,
sometimes I'll listen to music on the
right.
bus, and I definitely have a brain that's very ADD, ADHD.
Uh-huh.
So I'll wander off and always kind of how could have it been done in like a different way,
Yeah,
and just kind of always see how I would have done it,
totally.
or just kind of experiment with other options.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I'm the same way. And honestly, I think that's like how a lot. Yeah, I think that, I guess what am I trying to say? There's like a lot more talk than there's ever been about like, oh, you stole that idea from that person, or it sounds like that. And like, in general, I'm like really kind of like skeptical of those arguments, because I think that like so much of music over the last 100 years, and so much of like really great original music that we love and have valued for years kind of comes about that way, like if it's like Bob Dylan playing old folk songs, and he's like, well, what if I changed it just a little bit, or what if it went in that direction? And then he comes up with something new, and it's like a whole new genre of music or something. And like, I think that's how cool music gets made. And
Yeah.
some people are like, oh, well, if you're starting with someone's existing um piece of music, and that inspires an idea, then it's like not really an original idea. And it's like, no, I think that's BS.
I saw a interview with it was with a Dave Grohl,
Uh-huh.
and when he came up with the part for Smells Like Teen Spirit,
Yeah,
that was inspired by like a Motown drum intro,
no kidding, really.
but like kind of like that funky Motown.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that, because I always heard the story about that song, that Kurt Cobain would say that he based the riff for Smells Like Teen Spirit off of the riff from More Than a Feeling by
Yeah,
Boston.
yeah. I actually do see the similar,
Yeah, right. But
like
like those songs are completely different, even
yeah,
if you can be like, and the thing is, we don't listen to those songs and say like, oh, how lame that they're similar. We're like, how cool is it that like a Nirvana song and like a Boston song like have
yeah,
something in common? That's so
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Music is just one of those things that always has like a special place that always inspires us in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's magic for sure.
So I actually in this shelf right here,
Yeah.
but so it's definitely the Lord of the Rings on vinyl.
Oh, I was wondering what
Yeah.
that was.
So I also right here I have a Tom Petty,
Oh, nice.
and I actually have
Hey, there she
yeah.
is.
It definitely is different to listen from like YouTube or like Spotify to listen to it
Sure.
on a vinyl.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Um, I like how it sounds on
Yeah,
vinyl.
yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is like with the setup that I have. It definitely matches with the gear, like the gear I have.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it
Yeah,
always looks like when you post your stuff that you have a really nice turntable.
yeah,
I gotta invest in a higher quality
yeah.
turntable. I'm
yeah.
not using the
Like,
best equipment I could.
well, like I'm kind of like on the side where you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. Like,
Sure.
like with a lot of the stuff is just like what most people can afford.
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like one of my favorite pieces is a like a receiver that I have from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
And I paid like $130 for it.
Uh-huh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you find it online?
It was the Facebook marketplace.
Oh, nice. That's great.
I definitely did have to I had to take it apart like
Hmm.
and go inside and clean it because it
Sure.
with it being almost 50 years old, there was a lot of dust inside. So I took one of those like compressed air cans
Oh yeah, sure.
and just cleaned it all inside.
Uh-huh.
And it worked pretty well.
Nice. And now it
Yeah.
works Totally fine. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, Facebook Marketplace. I'll have to remember that when I'm
Yeah.
getting my new turntable and speakers together.
Yeah. So um, so I think that wraps it up for
Awesome.
the chat.
Sure. This was really
Yeah.
fun, Mike.
Yeah.
And I love talking music
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. I always love doing stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And the next
yeah.
time that we're out in LA playing a
Yeah.
show, hopefully
Yeah.
you'll come out and take some
Yeah.
pictures of us.
Yeah. There definitely are there with where I live, it's not in like LA, like the downtown LA, but
I
it's
see.
definitely one of like the suburbs just outside of LA.
Where do you live?
It's the Santa Clarita area.
Oh, I know Santa Clarita.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
definitely way more affordable than like downtown LA.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, when I say LA, I also mean like the valley and
yeah,
way inland,
yeah.
maybe as far as like West Covina even.
But there are actually a few like small venues here
Oh, cool.
that aren't like that might fit like there's actually a music store not probably like 10 minutes away from me, and
Uh-huh.
they do live concerts,
Nice.
and they can fit like less about 100 people max,
Mm-hmm.
but there definitely are more bigger venues here.
Sure.
But definitely if you want to get into like the tens of thousands, that's in like downtown LA.
Yeah, sure. Of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would love to play in Santa Clarita. And yeah, we're trying to play in Joshua Tree. So like I think a lot of that
Yeah,
outside of LA
yeah,
stuff would be kind of
yeah.
perfect.
And they always have there's a kind of like center park here,
Mm-hmm.
and they I'm not sure when they'll do it again, but
Yeah.
music in the park.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, Santa Clarita. Sounds
yeah,
great. All right, Mike. Well, this was really wonderful. Thank you
yeah.
so much for the invitation to be on your show.
Thanks.
And I guess I'll talk to you soon. Oh, when can I hear this or
I'm
see it?
actually going to uh, uh share it on YouTube shortly after this.
Fantastic.
So I'm not sure when it'll be like final, but it definitely will be up in the next like few hours.
Cool. That's great. Awesome.
Great.
Take care,
Yeah.
Mike.
Thanks.
Great seeing you.